Hello, ghost hunters. Tonight we're going to talk about some more ghosts I've seen in Scotland, or uncanny experiences, if you will. And I have a couple of things to take off the winter chills. First of all, my heater. You attend to that? And this. Tonight we will be sampling Chivas Regal. See this? Premium Scotch Whisky. It's a very nice blend. The 12-year-old, incidentally, he's 12 years. Very nice. So basically it's got a kind of, I would say a kind of fruity taste to it in some ways. I don't know. Let's have a quick sample of it. Quick sample of the old Chivas Regal. Get my creative juices flowing so I can talk to you about ghosts and things. Yeah. Proper Scottish half, there you go, about that much. Yes. What a fantastic smell. What a fantastic smell. Here it is again. Chivas Regal. No, you'd be able to get this for maybe about $30 in a typical Specs or Goody or whatever. It's good whiskey. Let's press on. First of all, the whiskey. The whiskey tasting. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's very smooth. Very nice. I can see why my dad liked this. My late father liked this a lot. My brother used to bring this back from Germany. He would people there, you know. Yeah, he was a serviceman and he could buy a lot of it. So he used to buy some and bring this and some good cigars for my father. He enjoyed this. Yeah, pretty nice. So, okay, tiny bit of water, tiny spot. Okay, tiny spot. I like to do this. See how it works. It's my way. Oh yeah, that's really going to hit the spot tonight. So this is nice. Oh, that's a really good whiskey. I'm not a whiskey drinker. Let me just stress that. But I've said it in my other videos. So it's winter chills. So let's talk about some. I have a couple of interesting, one of my friends was watching my video and he said to me, hey, you talked about this, but you didn't talk about that. You remember when that happened? And I thought, I do actually. And it happened on his farm. I'm going to get into that story in a little while. Let me just have a quick look and make sure I've got everything I need to. I had little notes of what I was going to do. I've got 4 little things I wanted to talk about, so I'll get to that. So first of all, I want to talk about ghost lights. Will o' the wisp. The will o' the wisp. If you ever saw such a thing or heard of it. This phosphorescent thing that seems to happen over marshy bogs or marshland. Very common. I've seen it often in Scotland. Will o' the wisp is something you see often. But 2 times stick it in my head, and they were both at graveyards. That's kind of creepy. And the first time I was fishing, me and my friend were fishing, and quite a walk back to where we parked the cars. So the rain got very, very heavy. So what we decided to do was go over this little wall into a graveyard, because there was a little kind of hut. I call it a hut. It's not really a hut. It was like it was almost like flagstones. Built like that, and it was like just a covering. Almost looked like a bus shelter. That's the best example I can think of. Oh god, this heat. Hold on, this heat is driving me mad. And but it was made of stone. And what it was probably for was the sextant, gravedigger or whatever, to recover from, extreme weather, get in there. And you gotta remember, this is Scotland, and little graveyards like that can be in the middle of nowhere. Quite a bit to go to get safe or out of a bad storm or whatever. Back in the day, these are very old graveyards. So we went in there, 2 of us sitting there. There was a little kind of stone bench, flagstone bench, just kind of abandoned their fishing poles, and got up there and sat there, and the rain was just like pelting down. And I was like soaking wet, so I was kind of snuggled up in my big coat like this, and I had my hood over me, and I was like this, just sitting there trying to get some heat. And I had a thermos of hot tea. Oddly enough, that was a good thing, a lifesaver. And I was sitting there, so I think I fell asleep, and I just remember my jacket getting tugged, tug, and I'm going, get off, and my friend's tugging these in. He wouldn't speak, he was just pointing, and over across the graveyard was a phosphorescent blue light. It was a will-o'-the-wisp. One of the clearest ones I ever saw. I mean, quite often you see them far away in the distance, so this thing was just over there. And we watched it in the dark. Quite a scary, scary thing. Often seen in graveyards. Some people say they are ghosts. I don't know. But what is interesting about it, and I'll get to that one in a minute, is they tend to recede away from you if you try and approach them. It's almost as if it's acknowledging you. And certainly I've experienced that. So we watched that thing for a while, and then we left because I'm very uncomfortable with a thing like that. Some people would even argue in the past that they were this is like something trying to lure you. So the second time I saw one was at a private cemetery, which was off the road, off the beaten track. It was down a little muddy track, very muddy actually, and beside a river which had recently flooded. There'd been torrential rain, a week of rain, terrible rain, and so bad that the whole place flooded. So the rain had now receded, but the ground was soaking wet, mud, thick, deep mud, and the rain had gone, the weather had changed again, and I was coming along this track, and I saw this thing over at the graveyard, just a light. It wasn't as bright as the one I just described, but a light moving, just moving, phosphorescent, will-o'-the-wisp type thing. Some people call them ghost lights. Did I say that already? And I saw this thing. So, now my friend Willie, he's probably braver than I when it comes to these things. He decided we'd go after it. Go and look at this thing, find out what it is. So, we climbed over this fence. It was such an old place that they'd actually closed down the fence, the road, that muddy track that once took you to that graveyard is no longer there. It's just a fence. So we climbed over the fence and started heading towards it. And in this case, pretty soon we got into a lot of mud, walking into mud, and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I said to him, let's just stop here. It's like quicksand or something. I don't like this. This thing's trying to lure us to our death or something. That's what it felt like. And that was a scary, scary thing. And so, oddly enough, we found a sort of little path, which was a bit firmer ground, and we got onto that. Covered in mud, our jeans were all muddy, and we walked down that a bit. And as we got to this thing, this is what I think freaked me out about it. It's often people say the light will recede in front of you, it will move away from you, it will keep moving away from you. And this thing moved towards the river, but towards the river was an old dry stone wall. We have dry stone, or dry stone as you might say it, outside of Scotland, but it's a dry stone. It's dry stone dike. And what I noticed about this thing, in dry stone dikes is often what's called a stile, and it's like steps over. It could be. In the older ones, it was rocks, built into the wall. You could step over it for farmers or whoever used those fields to move around. Or in more recent times, I've seen it with wooden ones. People build these things, but this was rocks protruding from, stones protruding from the wall you're meant to climb over. And to me, it just went to where the stile was, right? I mean, there was nobody there, just this ghost light. And when it got to the stile, it kind of just, it was how it floated over it and down out of sight into the darkness. And that freaked me out. It was like something actually acknowledging us. You know, moving away from us. That's to me the weirdest thing about ghost lights. So anyway, back to the whiskey. So that's Shiva. I wanted to say something about ghost lights because that's a big issue, and you know, a big thing in Scottish things. You know, you find fields, and it's a good chance you'll see one. Graveyards are quite a common place, and it's quite a scary thing when you see it. What is it? Is it marsh gas? Why graveyards? You know, why a graveyard, and why this thing? I personally, I mean, it's like this is what gets me about it. It's almost as if it responds to you. It reacts to what you do. That's my experience of it. So let's have a quick look. Yeah. Okay, I wanted to. Yeah, this is what I was talking to my friend about. My friend said to me, "Do you remember that? Do you remember that?" I said, "Yes, I do." And this is like, my friend lived in a farmhouse. This farmhouse came down to him. I think it was his grandparents, and very old building, very old. It was a bizarre place. I mean, so he had to renovate it, and when he got it, the well. This is insane. It actually had a well room attached to the house, you know. And you went in, and there was a big hand crank well thing that brought the water up from the ground, and that was the well. And it was like the ground was like paved with flagstone in that room, and there was a door to that side in that room, and a lot of stuff, a lot of industry on the farm happened in that room. If that makes sense, you know, things that you prepare for the house, and this will make sense in a minute why I say this. And when he first got that house, he decided he's a bit rough and ready person. He doesn't really care about stuff, you know. He's a bit, let's just say he doesn't put a lot of value in material things. He's a minimalist, you know. He can. So to me, when he got that, he said, "Okay, I'm just going to move in." You know, he's just going to move in. I said, you know, at the time people were saying, "Don't you want to like, you know, do it up a bit or whatever?" Nah, I'm just going to move in. Going to do it. Going to move in and work on it as I'm in the place, and which is probably a good idea, to be quite honest. Saves you a lot of money in the long run for accommodation or whatever. And he moved in. And moving into him was initially just sleeping on a camp bed. The house was like pretty empty, except for an office. The office had furniture in it, you know. I guess that's where the farm was run from, you know, his grandfather or whatever did all that, and there was a quite extensive library, I recall, going there and seeing that. Interesting old library in the office. It was all like old shelves all around, and I can remember a big green leather chair, an incredible desk rather, but old furniture, and definitely worth preserving because it was a bit worn but nice and old. Yeah, so I like stuff like that. But him, his whole thing was moving in with a camp bed and a microwave. I'm in residence, so that was kind of his life, you know. But he was going to work on it, and that's fair enough. I mean, it's an incredible thing to inherit an old property like that. But as it happened, he was. I think he was reading one night, as the story goes, and he heard noises in the well room. And it was chop, 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 like this, chop, chop, chop. And it went on and on and on, and he's trying to ignore it, because he thought, I don't like that. So he kind of ignored it. Then he looked out in the corridor, put the lights on, went down the corridor to the well room, and there's nothing. So he went back to the room, and this went on for several nights. And then I was there, and we're sitting there, just talking, and suddenly, chop, 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 chop. And he said, "What does that sound like to you?" I said, "It sounds like someone chopping wood." So off again we went to the well room, where basically things like that would have happened in the past, and there's nothing there. But as we're standing there, the well began to go by itself. It actually began to, it's a big handle, it started to move. And that was not the noise. That was not the noise of the chop chop. And he did not stay another night in that house. He actually sold the place. He moved, that day, he said, you stay the night with me. You just stay here. Will you stay here? And I said, okay. So I just slept in a chair. He was in his thing, and we kind of stayed awake talking all night. And in the morning, he moved into his mother's because he said, I don't like that place. And that made his mind up for him that he just didn't want to live there. So that was an interesting story. But that was my friend. He was saying, do you remember that? So he was watching the video yesterday, and they're thinking, why didn't you tell that great story? Because it's so scary, and it is scary. But it's strange. He was just young. We were young, and he looks back now and he says it wouldn't bother him now. So he just at the time it was kind of freaked him out. Now he would be quite comfortable with it. So I think it's an age thing. You grow out of these things. Me, I've lived in haunted buildings. I exercise them if I don't like what I'm hearing or seeing. I exercise the building. I exercise it. That's what I do. Whole thing, bell, book, and candle. I get the stuff out, the apparatus, and I will exercise the building. And I've done this in two places where I've lived, and that was the end of it. But that's not the only thing. A similar story. Oh yeah, this is interesting. So that was the story of the well and the firewood, which is a true thing. I totally experienced that with my friend. I don't have an explanation to this day. I don't know what it was. The best I could say was that what someone suggested, floated an idea, and he said, well, there's a lot of old mine workings around there. Could you have been hearing old things collapsing under you, under the ground and all kinds of stuff? And I don't know. Not part of Lanarkshire. True enough, there is old mine workings, but I'm not really sure. That's something. Well, I definitely heard chop, 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 chop. It was just him and I, and we were sitting there in the same room listening to this 2 rooms away. They're a very, very frightening old building. And he got rid of it. So, okay, yeah, I want to also talk about something that happened in another friend's house. And this is a farmhouse again. But when the house was asleep, my friend used to have us go round the back. He'd go round the back. He had a room down at the back of the place, and these walls were like so thick. They were like bizarre. It's an old building. The walls were like 6 foot thick, and he actually turned that room into a recording studio. This is true. Back in the day, and he did stuff in there, played his guitar and stuff like that, and he had a recording studio built in his own bedroom. Frankly, it was amazing. So we'd go around the back, shut up his window, and he'd open the window and we'd all climb in. This is what we'd do. And one time it was me and this other guy, Mike. We went over there and we chapped his window, and the guy in particular in the house was still awake. He was sitting there at his computer or something, and he let us in, and he said, hey guys, I've been listening to some weird stuff all night. And I said, oh, what is it? He said, I've realised that, how we've had problems in this house, he said, with knocking sounds. And I said, yeah. He said, well, I've realised that if you acknowledge it, the knocking stops. Weird, huh? So, we sat there, kind of listening for a long time. And it was maybe 1 a.m. We're sitting there, drinking beer. And as I said already, these walls are like 6 foot thick to the outside. And somewhere in that building, bang, 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 like that. The house is asleep. The entire house is asleep. We're sitting there. I'm looking at the building where the building should end. It should end there. There's nobody. There's nobody out there. We go out and look. We can see through the window. For God's sake, it just this and so all eyes looking at a particular part of the building. A few minutes later, bang, 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 and then this is what gets weird. It becomes faster, rather than, or I should put it like the space between where you heard like bang, and then there'd be a pause. then it would get faster. The spaces in between would get shorter rather. So you do this. But the way to stop it was to stand up and just chop on the wall. And the noise would stop. And that was a weird experience in that house. And that's not the only thing. He experienced a lot of things. Quite often, there was a room on the way to his room. Small. It was originally some kind of storage, but it had a window. And he used to walk to it. And one time when he's walking past it, he just assumed what he was seeing was his aunt in that room. In the corner of his eye, he sees someone. And then by the time he'd reached his room door, he just realised his aunt wasn't there. His aunt was gone for the day. She's gone out shopping or something. So he went back and looked in, and naturally there's no one there. That was one of his experiences of it. So, quite an interesting thing. And he actually had come to terms with the ghosts in the house, if you like he, or ghost. He knew that if you responded to it, if you acknowledged the knocking, it stopped. So there's quite a lot of things like that. A lot of poltergeist activity also. Clock stopping, 2 a.m. Always a clock would stop for no reason. Always clock. Sometimes middle of the night, other clocks would just ring the wrong hours. Ring the wrong hours. Stuff like that. And an old Singer sewing machine that would start moving by itself. It was a pedal type. Thing would just start going. So quite a spooky old place he lived in. And some of it is his stories, but I certainly experienced the knocking. Certainly experienced that. Maybe twice in the house, but definitely I remember that night. It was very strange, and I assure you, there's absolutely no one there. Absolutely no one, except us. So, you're welcome to believe what you will, but there's some. If you go into these older houses, this is where it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen now. Acknowledge the sound. Like seeking attention. Since I started talking about this stuff just in the past week on here, I've had some weird experiences in this house in the past. There's nothing terribly bad, nothing terribly scary. Apparently there's an old lady ghost in this house, according to the previous owner, and there's a ghost cat, and I think I saw the cat, as I said already. But another thing I had for a while was I'd be in the. Now there's issues with the electricity in this house. The old box, the boxes. These old houses were not built for modern living. They can go out any time. If they went out right now, it probably wouldn't be a ghost. It'd just be the box. But what is weird is the light in my toilet, which is in the landing here. Sometimes you're in there and the light just goes out. You could be in the shower and the light goes out. There's nothing wrong with it. The fuse box is fine. And then it comes on again. Very strange. But it only happens at particular times, and I just feel to myself, it's like something. It's like acknowledge me. That's what it feels like. So when I came into this room a few minutes ago, just something fell over there. Just fell for no reason. It's perfectly fine, and I caught it as it fell. Something I just put there safely the day before, and I thought, well, how did that manage to just leap off of there for no reason? So you anything. So point is, you start messing with this stuff. You're going to find stuff. You're going to rake a few things. It's probably, if you want to believe in ghosts, and I believe this house is haunted, although I've never had any experiences with it. If it becomes an issue, I will exorcise the place, as I've done before, and remove any spirits from it. I'm told that the old lady who haunts the place is good-natured, so that's something. Like I said before, this house was actually owned by the Crowley family. I kid you not. I kid you not. What was that noise over there? I don't know if you heard that. Hmm. I kid you not. This is owned by the Crawleys. Yeah, and this is actually a branch of the family of Alistair Crawley. Actually owned this house. They were the first owners of this house, and that's a fascinating fact. They don't live here now, thankfully. But I've thought of doing some kind of seance Ouija board. Yeah, see what comes up. Who knows? But this is normal to me. I mean, it freak other people out. But in Scotland, I've lived in places like that. I've stayed the night in very haunted houses, and mostly saw nothing. There's nothing happens, and occasionally something out of the blue. And I'll tell you what's interesting. The Delta Queen on the Mississippi. It's not on the Mississippi now, but when it was on the Mississippi, I was on the Delta Queen, and we went ghost hunting, ghost busting on it. I have the films to prove it. So the ghost of the Delta Queen is Captain Mary B. Green, and we were on one of the decks shouting "Mary B. Green, make yourself seen." And this guy appeared wearing a very old uniform. We never saw him any other time on the ship. Never. Or boat, whatever you want to call it, steamboat. And this guy appears wearing an old-fashioned uniform. He walks ahead of us. I never thought much of it at the time. Then we go around the corner, at the back of the ship, where the paddle is. This is like 1 a.m, perhaps. And there's a strong smell of cigars. One thing Mary B. Green did was she smoked cigars. And there's no one there. There's absolutely no one there. Everyone's asleep. You got to remember that the people who go on the Delta Queen are like in their 80s or whatever, We were like, exception to the rule. But, these people go to bed at like 8 p.m. So to smell cigar smoke there is weird. But that wasn't the weirdest thing. In the little bar, the other thing about Mary B. Green is she hated alcohol. And when you were in the little bar, up in the deck, occasionally the windows at the top would slam shut for no reason. But I think the creepiest thing I ever saw there was the rocking chairs on the deck. Every single one of them was motionless, stationary, except for one. And it was really rocking, really angry rocking. Oh, that was weird. But it wasn't the only one. In the actual cabin we had, the door used to slam itself shut for no reason. There's a toilet door. Takes you into a little toilet. I was uncomfortable showering in there. You go in, there's a little wash basin there, there's a little shower here. It's very small, very, very small. You feel even, uncomfortable, boxed in. But trying to take a shower in it, I was like, it was creepy. I actually felt there was someone in there with me, to be quite honest. And sometimes you'd just be in the room and the door would just slam shut, that door. And other times when the door was shut, it would open for no reason. It would just creep open, between the beds. It was single, twin beds. So that's other creepy things here. And the reason I mentioned that is I was reading someone's posting earlier saying nothing scary happens here. This isn't Scotland. This is America. We don't have castles and scary castles and stuff. And I said, well, you really do. You do. If you got creepy places, creepy things happen. I mean, the thing about that boat in particular, people have decided to disappear off it. Elderly people, for some reason. There's at least one case of some old man deciding he never arrived at the other side, wherever they were going. Did he do it on purpose? I don't know. Was it a suicide thing? We don't know. But that's as much as I understand. So, a lot of spooks. This is a boat that's been around since, God, the 1800s. plying its trade on the Mississippi and other places like that. There's going to be spooks, and I would say the place is haunted. Definitely felt that when I was there. But I had this person sing about a lady talking about Houston and saying there's nothing scary around here, and I said, well, there really is. If you I know there's a few places in town. I don't know what it's called. Is it Spaghetti Warehouse? That's one people talk about. But I talked about the Bishop's Palace on Galveston Island. That definitely, I visited that and took the ghost tour, and it's quite a creepy place. It's quite creepy. There was what's the other one? Oh boy, I can't remember the one I mentioned to her. It's definitely spooky. Well, it's definitely. I argue that there's spooky places anywhere. I mean, it's all about that. What is it? Where is it? You don't have to go into a Scottish castle or a wherever stately home to find a ghost. It doesn't work that way. I mean, Texas is notorious for ghost towns. I'm going to go and investigate a few. I've seen a couple, and my wife and I found one. quite a weird place. Absolute ghost town. I said to this place is amazing. You should see it. You could film it. You could just film a Western movie there right now, without any money on sets or whatever. You could just go there and say, boom. It looks so real. And you walk around it. Sure, you're not supposed to, but I mean, there's no fences. It just says don't do it. So we kind of did it. No, not just us. There were several other people walking around it, taking photographs of a very old ghost town. And the thing about ghost town, they probably have ghosts. So, but I had a real saloon at that place. But the point I'm making here is, you don't have to go too far to find uncanny things. There's what's the name of that place? Oh, it's just outside of Houston. This name escapes me right now. Come back to me later, no doubt. But it had a fascinating place. It's where I think the railroad used to go past it. There's been a lot of, allegedly, murders and, like 19th century bordellos and all that kind of stuff going on. So the kind of place that you would go and get probably shot if you were, and apparently the ladies that used to work the bordello used to wave to the men on the train, try and get them to stop there. And there's stuff like this. I forget the name of the place, but there you go. That's a place that's totally haunted. That's haunted. 100 stories about that place. You don't have to look very far. But, for Scotland, though, what I was talking about, it's very, very, you get into the rural places. You go to any pub. I tell you what, you go to the rural parts of Scotland, and you go to any pub, and I guarantee, you ask someone will tell you some uncanny story that either happened to him, or happened to his neighbour, or something, or just local folklore. And these stories last a long, long time. I mean, I was astonished. This is not a ghost story. But I was astonished about one thing. Went into a pub in Sliman, and I was talking about my great-grandfather. That's the guy said to me, "Oh, where are you from? What are you here for?" I said, "I'm just here looking at my family genealogy. My great-grandfather lived here. Who was he?" And as soon as I said his name, I had people coming up to me, these old guys saying, "Oh yeah, him, blah blah blah, he died in such a year," and all this stuff. This is astonishing. This guy like died like 60 years ago. It's insane. And that's what I mean. How they just, you think just a little old pub. These men could tell me stuff. I mean, because he was a local strongman. He actually, there's a huge monument with a strange thing on top of it, and he carried that on a procession. This guy, incidentally, I want to tell you about this guy because it's fascinating. Because he actually wrestled with bears. He wrestled bears. This is absolutely true. He wrestled with bears, and that's his claim to fame. He wrestled bears. And his brother, or his cousin, I'm not 100% sure, was recruited to beat P.T. Barnum's circus. So there you go. That's the kind of stuff this guy was into. This is my maternal grandmother's father and his family. But apparently he was a strong man. Very strong. And he lifted this huge piece of whatever, stone, granite, whatever, and carried it through the town, and that was the top plinth thing on this monument. So I had these old guys talking about that, and one saying, "Oh, it's not so heavy. I've lifted it myself," which I find hard to believe. I mean, there it is up there. I mean, this guy loves this, you know. But there you go. Maybe. But what I'm trying to say is the point of the story. Obviously, long story short, gets to the point eventually. And these little towns, you know, stories like that last a long, long time. And you know, if you hit on someone, he'll tell you some incredible story. And I remember one old guy talking about Edinburgh Castle. He was a soldier in Edinburgh Castle, as was my father. And he said that he was in the toilets, you know, one time. And they were very cold, you know. This is back in like the 40s or something, and he was 1940s, and he was in the toilets of all places. The soldier in the castle, and cold night, and all he had was this voice: "Hello there, Jock. What are you doing there, Jock?" And the guy just freaked. You know, he just freaked. There's nobody there. Absolutely nobody there. He said, you know, so he thought it was someone playing a prank on him, but there's nobody. And my dad, you know, he used to talk about times when he was on guard duty there. That used to freak him out. Because where you have to do guard duty is on a staircase, and if you look at Scottish history, the guy had his head chopped off there. Every night at midnight, apparently, his head rolls down the stair. Believe that? I don't know. So my dad just used to think, you know, when he had to go there and stand there, guard all night, pitch black, you know, he used to watch that. I think it's called the Argyle Staircase. I'm not 100% sure. And one time, you know, an officer came to the other side of the door, and my dad didn't expect it, and my dad let out a scream, and he screamed, and he went up the road shouting, "You're mad! You're mad! I'm going your name," he said. So, but nothing came of that. So, "You're mad," that's what he said. So he screamed, and the officer jumped like 5 feet in the air and screamed out as well. So obviously that was nothing. But there was some weird things in Edinburgh Castle. My dad used to talk. He used to go up there where the crown jewels are, Scottish crown jewels, and you have to guard that at night. That's guarded by the army. Is it the real crown jewels? Yeah, that's another story. Yeah, so he used to go up there and guard these things anyway. And he said that, you know, standing in that courtyard, it's pitch black, and he heard stuff in there. He heard hooves, horses' hooves, maybe. I tend to trust my old dad. He's passed now, but he said he'd stand there and, you know, across this courtyard, he could hear horses' hooves. Another time, he could hear someone walking. No one there. Who knows? But, you know, my dad has some great stories like that. Because when he was in Fort George, he was a Seaforth Islander in the army. When he was in Fort George and up at Nairn, it's Nairn. There's a legend of a lone piper, a ghost piper, in the night. And he said he heard a few things, weird noises in that place. Because where you're living in is a building. When my dad lived there, today it's all fitted out. It's an incredible place, I think. But back then, he said, you know, when you moved around this place, it was like an old castle. People actually had candles. Can you imagine this? Soldiers carrying candles around their living accommodation. That's what it was like. And pitch black. So I can see some reason to hold to. You've got to remember that place was built in the 18th century, right? It was built to subdue the Highlands after Culloden. And it's a scary place. It was meant to be a scary place. I mean, if the Highlanders were captured and taken there, it actually says on the gates, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here," which is from Dante's Inferno. So basically, if they were taking you there, it wasn't for a good reason. No. But anyway, so that's back in history. But more recently, we've fought wars with Germany and other places, and in my dad's case, he's an old soldier. A lot of my family have come through Fort George, oddly enough. But they're talking about the ghost piper. There was one night when it was, my dad says, you could hear something. Music. But he said it wasn't pipes. It was, what do they call that? It's not a fife. You could hear something from the battlements, faint music in the night. And all hell broke loose next day because, some officer was demanding who was up there on the battlements playing the night before. And, getting the pipers and whatever, giving them a hard time. Chanter, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, someone playing a chanter, which is it's very much like the bagpipes. It's like the bag, so it's not as loud, it's just a small sound to it. So my dad definitely heard some things in Fort George. He said it was a creepy place. He used to like going out there at night and going around the battlements when there was no one around. It's interesting back then, very dark. And watching Nairn, distant lights of Nairn away in the distance. So it is. But, the ghost piper, that's a common thing. So, excuse me. Let's go drink some of this. It is what it is. Ghosts are ghosts. You want to believe them or not believe in them? That's up to you. Let me just check my webpage. In case anyone's commented or anything. Should really know, shouldn't I? So, no, probably not. Should really know anybody chatted. I've been getting some weird chats, from Russians. I'm not quite sure what that's about. Oh, there's me. And an echo. Let's get rid of that. So, got some more ghosts tonight. That's really it. Oh yeah, there you go. Some Russian nonsense. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. More ghosts tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if another friend tomorrow contacted me and said, "Oh, you didn't mention this," because you've got to remember, I go back a long way. Me and my friends, we used to. That was part of our challenge. It was like Scooby Doo, especially when we're drunk. And we'd go into the pub and have a good swally or two, and someone would say, "Have you ever been to such a place? See what's up there." And we had a great place where we used to live. It was a mansion, an abandoned mansion, and all that was left on the land was a working farm. But the mansion building long pulled down. To be honest, I don't even know. It was demolished in my lifetime. I don't even remember it being removed. In fact, if you go there, you still see some things in the ground, like a water type thing, like where maybe some kind of thing was. But that place was certainly there when I was in my teens. And people called it the haunted house. It was a haunted mansion. But the whole area, the whole woodland became the haunted. Let's go to the haunted. That's how people used to put it. And we go to the haunted. And they meant the whole woodland. Even after the house was gone, they still considered that the haunted. So for no reason, most people didn't understand why it was still called the haunted, or why it was ever called the haunted. But that was a crazy place. And I had a friend who actually stayed overnight in it. It's true. We kind of dared him, and he was a little drunk when he decided this, so he So you take up the day and went home and got a camp bed and some kind of light. I can't remember what it was. It's like kind of lit it somehow, but it wasn't like gas or anything. What was it, paraffin or something? I don't know. It was yeah. It was a storm lantern. It was one of those things. Yeah, I remember now. And he had something like diesel, not diesel, whatever, paraffin. What do you call that? Kerosene in America. They call it kerosene. Kerosene in it, and he lit the thing. That was how he did it. I don't remember what his light was, which is damn creepy light for that situation. And what he did was he set it up in the main room, which would have been creepy. And he spent the night there. He really did. We helped him get his bed set up and decided to leave. Actually, we didn't quite leave because, you got to play a few games, aren't you? Your friend does this. So we let him go and we could hear him snoring. And someone creeped up and shouted in the window, "There's no one here but you and me!" You can see him sitting up on the thing in the dark, and he's sitting up. He knew it was that, obviously. But a couple of minutes later, "There's no one here but you and me!" And he says, "Just a minute." He says, "You'll behave yourself when I get my shoes on." Is what he said. So that was kind of funny. And that's kind of stuff we used to do, because we used to go into a private graveyard, The local knob, had this graveyard, and it was creepy as hell. I mean, there was plague victims and everything in there. These things had the skulls and the crossbones on the swords, names on the damn graves. It was just like, creepy one-eyed skulls, We'd go in there, like One-Eyed Willie from that movie, And what I used to love doing is we'd tell a few ghost stories and we'd sit there a while. Then out the blue, I'd just get up and run, just because I used to terrify my friend. Was terrified, I'd run and leap over the wall. There was a wall, it was about 5 foot tall, and you had to get over this wall. So, and I'm doing it on purpose, to get over the wall, and then you would hide, he thinks he's alone. And so everybody'd be out, and here was this last guy, and he was always the same, he did this time every week, and he fell for it every week, and then he was trying to get on this 5 foot wall and over it and away, and he's practically screaming, and he does this every damn week, like, "Don't leave me here with the ghost," and then weird thing is, a week or two later we'd say, "Oh, let's go there," and he's okay with it. "Oh yeah, let's do it." And you got to climb in through the wall and all this stuff, and once you're in, and sitting in the total darkness telling ghost stories. And that was the thing. He's supposed to run, that was our game. And we used to get over the wall and just hide, and he'd panic and scream, and this is really bizarre. Just worth it just to watch his reactions, because they were just crazy. This is absolutely true, which is insane. Offer this every time. So, let's have one of these. Another Chivas Regal. It's really quite a smooth, nice drink. I totally recommend it. Am I doing my bit for a Scotch Whisky here? I hope I am. I really hope I am. Probably said this before, but Scotch Whisky does not have an E in it. Irish Whisky has an E in it. That's the difference. That's how you can spot one or the other. Some good Irish Whiskies. I'm not knocking it. I'm not just saying, but this is Scotch. I'm a Scotsman. Irish Scotch. Oh, that's good. That's so good. Little tip of water though, just a little tiny bit. Oops. This is incredibly smooth. Incredibly smooth. I mean, let's think about this. You have to put whiskey in water in the whiskey to take the bite away, make it a bit smoother. But this actually works. Now, I can tell about some dodgy pubs in Glasgow where they actually water down the whiskey. They water it down, thinking that you're so stupid you won't notice. And this is true. I've seen places. I know a place. Believe me. You go in there and the whiskey's watered. They also do something to the vodka, which is garbage. I just know the cheese. Cheese. You don't want to go in there. It's a horrible place. But you got the thing about whiskey is they're banking on the fact you might put water in it. In fact, I remember one time my mother got vodka and orange, was what she asked for, and we gave her that, and she said, "There's no vodka in there." there's absolutely no vodka in that thing. That's how bad it was. So we didn't go back there again. So terrible place. Just conning everybody. But whiskey, you know. This is one of the best ones. One of the best cheaper whiskies. I'm not going to drink rubbish. You can see that anything that I drink on my channel, whether it's Bells or what's that one there? Yeah, Famous Grouse, or Chivas Regal. I'm going to drink something that's a good whiskey. I don't drink rubbish. Not at all. So you can take this as a recommendation of basically what Scots really drink. This is what they drink. They don't drink garbage. They don't drink like something. I mean, I've saw these crazy stories on the news. There was one not long ago, and it was some English company, and they said, "Oh, we're going to make whiskey in 3 years." Forget this strong ale whiskey from Scotland. Forget this stuff that's been in a vat for 12 years or 18 years. Forget that. Yeah, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it in like 3 months, or 3 years, or 6 months, or whatever. Just go and drink this crap. And the funny thing about it is, one of them actually won a prize, and you think, well, I'll give it a go. I'll try this thing, and it was 3-year-old English whiskey. Oh, it was rough. Nah. I suppose if you're not accustomed to drinking whiskey, you probably think it was okay because all whiskey kind of tastes the same. But in this case, I felt it was. Put my heater back on. I thought it was kind of rough. It just wasn't a pleasant taste at all. It's all about water. I think you need a whole gallon of water in it to make it palatable. But it made the news in the UK, and Scotland, Scottish whiskey's rubbish now. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it in 3 months. What you see, the point is, it's all very well. Hey, I'm totally for startup companies. Great, I approve of them. Great, wonderful. I totally back them. I'd even invest in such a thing. There you go. But do not pretend to be like these guys. These guys are master distillers with like 300 years behind them. I mean, this whiskey here, let's get the bottle up. I think they've been at it for, if I'm not mistaken, I think these guys, Chivas, been at it for 200 years. Let's get this straight here. Let's just get this straight. These guys have been at this so long. These are master distillers. Masters. You know what I mean? Quite different. I don't know what you're going to get in a little startup, is it? In the southeast of England. Not saying it's not possible. You can make whiskey. If you followed the same, let me get something straight here. If you went to and recruited someone who worked in one of the good whiskey distilleries and applied all the same content, you get the same effects, absolutely. But you're just not going to do it in 3 months or 3 years or whatever. That's garbage. It's just garbage. Blended whiskey. Another thing that I find hard to believe is the difference between blended whiskies and malts. A Scottish malt whiskey is sublime. You can't beat that. If you've got the cash, I'll tell you something. Here in Houston, we have Papa's steak restaurant. Awesome place if you can afford it. I think last time I went there it was like $250 for a couple of steaks. I mean, that's ridiculous, and you got to still tip this guy. you got to tip someone. You just spent like $250 on a meal and you're going to tip someone. I don't think so. Yeah, right. What kind of tip are we talking about here? So, and they do good steaks. I just think the prices are extravagant. So last time I was there, I was looking at their whiskey tariff bill. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the most expensive glass of whiskey, $650. Okay, I think it was Bowmore. And that is an expensive whiskey. They are expensive whiskies, expensive single malts. But, I mean, imagine paying $650 for a single whiskey. I mean, let's think about it. You get like 20. I think it used to be 22 halves, Scottish halves in a whiskey bottle. American measures are obviously different, but let's say 20. So multiply your 20 by 600, 650. So one bottle of whiskey is like turning over $12,000. My God, that's insane. Now I would love to own a whiskey bar myself, but I would never dream of gouging people. Not at all. I think my prices would be pretty decent, even to the very expensive single malts. Although most of the stuff would be for the average punter, the person off the street, people like you and me coming in and saying, "Okay, I want to try that, I want to try that, I want to try that." That's my kind of idea. I want to be a whiskey bar that people can afford, basically, and appreciate the products of my nation and Ireland. Why not? I mean, Irish whiskies are just as good, just as old. Very interesting. I'm not sure I would stock any of that 3-year-old English stuff though, or stuff from Japan. I don't think so. Japanese whiskies are like Japanese tartans. I don't want them. I don't want that rubbish. I want the real thing. But you listen to a Scotsman and drinking whiskey. What do you expect? All kinds of craziness. It started off in those. Now we're talking about whiskey. That's all good. Oh dear. But nah, definitely is, and you gotta respect people, what the years that people put into things. You gotta respect the quality of the product, whatever it is in this life. So let's see. I don't even know how long I've been here. 56 minutes. Whoa, I've been here almost an hour. Wow, can you believe that? Time flies, huh? So, anyway, maybe I'll get some more ghost stories for you next time. And that's. I hope you were a little entertained with it. There's something about this world. It's that people are just not receptive. We live in this age. But what if? What if? This is something I often push to people. I say, you're kind of conditioned, and school has a lot to do with it. Society, peer pressure, and you are made into this person who fits in this little space here. But you never fully develop all of your abilities and skills. And it's something I was talking about the other day about people who have developed a sixth sense, or perhaps it's in the occult science. They might even call themselves adepts. The people who have evolved into something else. They've honed up skills. Here's the thing. What if? Just what if? We're all capable of those things. What if? Just what if? I mean, it's like, I was watching something about Elon Musk the other day, and he was talking about us all living in the Matrix. Well, okay, I love the movie. But in the movie you live in the Matrix. I think Elon's maybe been on the wacky backy or something. so I'm not sure about that. But I do believe that there are inherent skills in us all that we don't always develop fully. And that can be a lot of things. I believe we exist in many different levels. And there is a spiritual level to our existence, which many people in this material world, we don't even think about. Just maybe. Now, you want to call it a cult, I'll call it something else. Just maybe you exist on higher planes, other dimensions. What if? What if? And basically, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, just maybe you should be switching on your sixth sense. That bit. Make yourself receptive to what is out there. Is the world this three-dimensional world you see, or is there more to it? Hey, like, physicists will tell you there's something like 10 dimensions now. What is this? How do we exist in this thing? How is this? What is it? And and as I get older, I look more towards some fundamental things like Buddhism, believe it or not. Because there's some fundamental truth there. Some fundamental truth in all religions, whether it's Islam or Judaism or even Christianity, which basically piggybacks on Judaism. or in the early pagan religions coming out of Israel, out of Egypt rather. So there's something about it all, and just maybe if you think about it and approach life differently, just maybe you will get to that higher level. Just maybe there's something more to it. I'd like to believe there's something more to it. You want it? A Christian might call it spiritual. Who knows? I'll leave you with that thought. But a ghost, do they exist? Maybe. Good night. Sleep well.